beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Chris Webb.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm grateful to have secured my first adjournment debate and to raise an issue that affects so many families in my constituency of Blackpool South and across the country: the cost of infant formula and the regulations that govern its sale. The infant formula market is rightly highly regulated and should remain so. Regulations have a key role in supporting public health goals and breastfeeding, but not all parents can or want to breastfeed, and recent stats show that 95% of babies in the UK have had some formula by the age of 9 months. As a father of a 9-month-old baby, I know how emotionally charged and difficult it is to navigate infant feeding. This period is crucial to a child's development. In their first year, they will triple their birth weight, and the foundations of their health and are determined for the rest of their lives. It's vital that parents have access to safe and affordable food during infancy. The fact that too many families, this isn't a reality. It is a public health crisis. Recent data from YouGov show that 1 in 4 mothers are struggling to afford formula milk. Over the past 2 years, the cheapest brand of formula has risen by 45%, with an average price hike across all bands of 25%. These increases are putting immense pressure on families. I will give way.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and thank you to the Honourable Member for bringing forward this really important debate and allowing me to briefly intervene. The recent CMA report highlighted the insufficient marketing regulations in the formula industry, which currently enables brands to exploit vulnerable parents, as the Honourable Member mentioned, by presenting their products as distinct or superior, despite all formulas being required to meet the same nutritional standards, whether the box is £7 or £14. Does the Honourable Member agree that an NHS branded formula in plain packaging could be considered produced at cost price to give those families who choose not to or who cannot breastfeed the confidence in knowing that their decision is the best thing for their child, regardless of the cost?
I thank my honourable friend for a statement and completely agree, and I'll come to this later in my speech, and I'm looking forward to working with her and other members of the all-party group for infant feeding once it's established in the upcoming week. So in my constituency alone, where child poverty has increased by 30% in the last year, 12,500 children are going without enough food each day. Formula is an essential part for many, but now with the average tub costing a staggering £14.50, many parents are resorting to extreme and unsafe measures to feed their babies. A black market has sprung up for infant milk and is one of the most commonly shoplifted items. Rather than working to reduce costs, some supermarkets have resorted to locking it in cages or attaching security tags, even going as far as to prevent customers from entering certain stores unless admitted by staff, something that is happening in convenience stores across my constituency. We are seeing something that should be unthinkable in modern Britain: formula foraging. I regularly read heartbreaking posts on local forums from parents begging for baby milk to tie them over till the next payday. They are in utter despair, but seeking out cheap or free milk online risks feeding your baby a product that could be out of date or already open and potentially laden with bacteria. Studies have shown how the inability to afford formula can lead to unsafe feeding practices. Skipping feeds, ignoring expiry dates, over-diluting powdered formula, or bulking it out using alternative, unapproved foods like porridge, all of which can harm an infant's health. New figures from NHS England show a worrying rise in child malnutrition. Up to 47% of hospitalised children are at risk of undernourishment. Last year, Blackpool's teaching hospital admissions for malnutrition almost doubled on the previous year. Gastroenteritis has become an alarmingly common illness in infants, with many now suffering more than one episode a year. In Blackpool, hospital admissions for under ones with gastrointestinal problems are almost triple the national average. A particularly serious risk is dehydration, a common compilation of gastroenteritis exacerbated by parents' inability to access or properly prepare formula. Parents should not be forced into these dangerous choices when they are simply trying to feed their babies. This is a scandal that I believe demands the urgent attention of this House.
Sarah Russell. Thank you very much to my honourable friend for Blackpool South, and thank you for raising this absolutely horrendous issue. There is also a related issue around the regulation of baby foods more broadly. Many baby foods contain more sugar per 100 grams than Haribo Sweeties, and at the moment there is no compulsory regulation of their content. There are large numbers of children who will be eating these baby foods and actually still be malnourished and not getting a balanced diet. Does my honourable friend agree with me that we should be looking at wider regulation of baby food with mandatory standards for its content, while still being very mindful of the need for baby foods to be affordable so that everyone can access proper nutrition for their children? Children in the UK on average are becoming shorter than their international peers, and it's a disgrace.
Chris Webb.
I thank my honourable friend for her intervention, and I do agree. We know from some of the studies recently published by the Jamie Oliver Foundation and others that this is a serious issue that really needs to be looked at urgently. Last week, the Competition Market Authority published its long-awaited interim report on instant formula. It outlines its concerns regarding the market, all of which appears to be contributing to parents paying over the odds. The regulations around the advertising and labelling of infant formula are rightly designed to protect parents and encourage breastfeeding. UK law is informed by, but not identical to, the World Health Organisation's International Code of Marketing breast milk substitutes. Our regulations only cover infant formula intended for babies under 6 months old. This loophole in UK regulation permits hidden marketing through care lines and widespread legal advertising on follow-on milk, an unnecessary product that does little other than promote higher sales of a brand's instant formula. I would urge the government to consider strengthening UK regulations to close the loophole on the marketing of breast milk substitutes in line with the WHO code. But strong regulation should not hinder affordable access to infant milk. Parents are worse off because current regulation means food bank vouchers, loyalty points and store gift cards cannot be used to buy it, and food banks are prohibited from stocking it. As a volunteer for Blackpool Food Bank for over the last 7 years, I have witnessed firsthand how urgently this is needed. For too long, the third sector and charitable individuals have been desperately scrambling to fill that gap that the previous government left wide open and allowed families to fall into. When it comes to infant formula, even that safety net has been removed. I've recently met with Richard Walker, Chairman of Iceland Foods, who shares my commitment to ensuring a fair price for formula for parents. I, alongside over 100,000 signatures for the Metro and Feed UK's Formula for Change campaign, support this call to allow parents to use food bank vouchers to buy infant milk. I will give way.
Shannon.
Madam Deputy Speaker, in the last term of Parliament, I referred to the Honourable Lady Alston Thulis was a member of the Scots Nats Party, and she was involved in the APPG, which I was also a member as well. So I'm very pleased to see this coming forward. I congratulate the Honourable Member for Blackpool South for about doing so. Does the Honourable Member not agree that whilst we can all acknowledge the well-documented benefits of breastfeeding, for some mothers this simply doesn't work? And sometimes the baby doesn't put on the weight, whilst breast is undoubtedly best. We need to ensure that the formula is available and is highly regulated, but not highly costed, to provide the best possible alternative. And that means we don't pretend the formula doesn't exist, but that we do the best to ensure it's the best we can offer when breastfeeding fails.
I thank the Honourable Member for his intervention and completely agree. As something I've seen with my own son who wouldn't take to breastfeeding, we had to result in infant formula, and we need to make sure that for all parents that the best is available for their child to ensure that they have the healthiest start at the beginning of their lives. I ask that this government examines this aspect of the regulation to ensure they do not punish the very people they are designed to protect. The CMA report also recommends potentially relaxing regulations to permit promotions and price reductions and incentivise competition. But although discounts will benefit parents in the short term, there needs to be a sustainable solution to permanently lower the price of formula. The infant milk market in the UK is highly concentrated, with just 3 manufacturers accounting for over 90% of the supply. Formula manufacturers have blamed rising costs, but profit margins have inflated beyond them. These firms pass responsibility to the retailers, who, they say, ultimately set prices. This is not just passing the buck. It's taking it from the pockets of struggling parents to line those of the monopolistic multinational conglomerates whose combined annual profits of £15 billion. But retailers have to do their part, to play and must do their bit to protect families by capping their prices in line with the CMA's report recommendations. In the coming weeks, I will meet with 3 major supermarkets to encourage them to cap prices and follow the lead of Aldi and Lidl in developing a reasonably priced own brand infant formula. The cost to parents of buying the most expensive brand can add up to £1,000 a year, more than twice as much as using an own brand infant formula. This is despite the fact that strict regulations ensure that these products are nutritionally equivalent. Parents naturally want to do the best for their baby, and decisions about feeding are inevitably made at times when mothers and fathers are at their most vulnerable. The CMA report points out that this can lead to them actively choosing a more expensive product, assuming incorrectly that a higher price means better quality. And this assumption is not based on price tag alone. It's based on decades of brand building from manufacturers trying to claim superiority of their products. The important public health message that all instant formula meets a baby's nutritional needs must be more effectively communicated. The government must also consider the CMA's recommendations to procure instant formula itself, providing it to parents at a lower price point whilst putting downward pressure on other manufacturers' prices. Prices remain unjustifiably high, but Iceland's leadership on the campaign has led to a welcome price reduction across the sector. Since February, there's been a positive shift, and there are now 3 formula products available in supermarkets that are affordable within the government's weekly Health Start vouchers. But these supermarkets aren't accessible to everyone. Blackpool has the 4th highest uptake in Healthy Start scheme, but around 150,000 families who are entitled to still don't access it nationally. There is a clear need to ensure that all those who are entitled to Healthy Start vouchers access them, while simultaneously increasing their value from £8.50. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a matter of huge importance, and I'm pleased to have been given the opportunity to raise it in the House today. I urge the government to consider my points and to work with me and stakeholders to ensure accessibility and affordability are at the heart of government's policy on infant formula. We must examine the comprehensive recommendations in the CMA's report and views of public health and the third sector, which all understand the urgency of this debate. I invite ministers to consider voices of parents in Blackpool who are at the sharp end of this price crisis, but are brilliantly supported by our local infant feeding support team. Raising a child is one of the most challenging and demanding things we will do in our adult lives. The government's policy must lighten the load of parents to ensure it can be one of the most rewarding things. We must ensure that every child in this country has a healthy start to life, and we cannot allow our children in constituencies like mine to be failed before they've even taken their first step.
Minister Stephen.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I would like to thank and congratulate my honourable friend for securing this debate on such a vitally important matter. He is a true champion for his constituents of Blackpool South, and he is rightly concerned about people and families in his constituency who are struggling with the cost of living. I'm aware that my honourable friend's constituency experiences high levels of deprivation, and this creates challenges for the people who live there. After 14 years of Tory neglect and incompetence, this government is committed to improving the lives and health of everyone. However, my honourable friend will be all too aware that we have a significant challenge on our hands in terms of transforming our health services so that they work better for the people who need them. When we came to office on the 4th of July, we made it clear that we would fix our broken NHS, and we commissioned Lord Darcy, who published a report which laid bare the true extent of the challenges facing our health service, giving us the frank assessment to face these problems honestly and to do the hard work required to fix them. That is why we announced in the budget an additional £25.7 billion of health spending over this year and next. But investment only works if it's coupled with reform, which is why we've launched our 10-year health plan, which will address the root causes and fix the foundations by investing in preventative care, expanding mental health services and modernising NHS infrastructure to radically reform the NHS based on 3 seismic shifts: from hospital to community, from sickness to prevention, and from analogue to digital. Our health mission also aims to reduce the amount of time spent in ill health, tackling health inequalities and driving economic growth. My honourable friend will be aware that children are at the centre of our health mission and that we are committed to raising the healthiest ever generation of children. Infant feeding is critical to a baby's healthy growth and development. We are committed to giving every child the best start in life, and that includes helping families to access support to feed their baby. The Family Hubs and Start for Life programme is central to this. Through the programme, 75 local authorities across England are improving their infant feeding, including breastfeeding, and support for families. These services are helping parents to access face-to-face and virtual support whenever they need it and in a location that suits them, be that in their home, their family hub, or in a hospital setting. We want to build on the actions that local areas are already taking through the programme so that families can access the support they need, when they need it, to meet their infant feeding goals. Breastfeeding has significant benefits for mothers and babies. However, breastfeeding rates in England remain low when compared to other countries. Data shows that around 53% of babies were breastfed at 6 to 8 weeks, but this dropped significantly by 6 months. My honourable friend will know that in response to concerns around breastfeeding internationally, the World Health Organization instigated an international code to promote breastfeeding and restrict the inappropriate marketing of breast milk substitutes that can discourage breastfeeding. The UK government is absolutely committed to implementing the code. Whilst breastfeeding has significant health benefits, we recognise that for those families that cannot or choose not to breastfeed, it is vital that they have access to infant formula that is both affordable and high quality. The price of infant formula has been brought back into the spotlight with the publication of the Competition and Market Authority's interim report last week on competition in the infant formula market. It highlighted that the price of some infant formula has increased by over 25% in recent years. Now, as my honourable friend has pointed out, parents and carers have had to bear the brunt of these price increases. I should be clear that the government's infant formula regulations do not set the price of infant formula, which are agreed by infant formula manufacturers and retailers. Instead, the regulations ensure that parents and carers have access to the highest quality and safe infant formula. The regulations cover infant formula and follow-on formula, which covers the first 12 months of a baby's life. The regulations require all infant formulas to comply with robust nutritional and compositional standards, which means that they all meet the nutritional needs of babies regardless of the price or brand. However, the regulations quite rightly restrict the inappropriate marketing and promotion of infant formula. That is because there is considerable evidence that advertising directly to the consumer influences their decision on how to feed their babies. My honourable friend has raised questions around loyalty card points and vouchers from food banks or local authorities being used for purchasing infant formula. The regulations seek to restrict inappropriate marketing techniques that induce the sale of infant formula, including special sales or discounts. This is so as not to discourage breastfeeding. Loyalty card points on their own are not contentious within the infant formula regulations. The regulations do not mention loyalty cards points specifically. I agree, though, that consumers should be able to use their loyalty card points to achieve a saving on their shopping. However, my honourable friend will be aware that there are numerous loyalty and reward card schemes available, and they vary significantly between retailers, and some may offer special discounts beyond awarding loyalty points. Loyalty card points should not be used as an incentive or as a reward to purchase infant formula. There is unlikely to be a one-size-fits-all approach, and it is for businesses to ensure that their activities are in compliance with the regulations. My honourable friend has asked about food banks. I would like to be clear that the regulations do not prohibit infant formula being distributed via food banks or where they may issue vouchers to families. Food banks set their own policies on whether to distribute infant formula. I recognise the important role that food banks play in supporting some of our most vulnerable families, and we've published guidance to businesses on the regulations, and we can provide further clarity on these issues where needed. My honourable friend quite rightly mentions the CMA's report. I'd like to address the CMA's report in more detail. The CMA looked at competition across the infant formula sector, including the regulatory framework, consumer behaviour, manufacturer behaviour, and assessed their impact on market outcomes. It concluded that multiple factors are resulting in poor market outcomes for consumers, including the behaviour of infant formula manufacturers and retailers, and that these require a response beyond the regulations alone. The CMA has been clear that it recognises the public health importance of the regulations and that they ensure all infant formula is suitable for meeting the health and development needs of babies regardless of price. However, it suggests the restrictions in the regulations on price promotions may be softening competition on prices. It is also concerned about the enforcement of the regulations. Furthermore, the CMA is also concerned that parents and carers are not being provided with sufficient information to make well-informed choices, and that their choices are often made in vulnerable situations after giving birth in healthcare settings. In these circumstances, they are unable to make choices that best meet their needs and budgets. The CMA has other market-based concerns that infant formula is being indirectly promoted by infant formula manufacturers via marketing of follow-on formula and growing up milks, and how statements on products may influence parents and carers' choices. To understand how the visibility of products online and in-store and in hospitals drives choices, the CMA commissioned qualitative research in this area, which it published alongside its interim report. We will be carefully considering all of the issues and options put forward by the CMA as it develops its final recommendations for government early next year. Now, I understand that many families are struggling to meet the cost of feeding their baby, and the government is committed to helping families most in need to access support. The budget announcement to extend the Household Support Fund will help those facing financial hardship with the cost of essentials. The government's Healthy Start scheme promotes a healthy diet for pregnant women, babies and young children by providing funds that can be used to buy or be put towards the cost of infant formula, as well as fruit and vegetables, pulses and milk. My honourable friend has suggested that the value of the Healthy Start schemes should be increased. He may be aware that in April 2021 the value of the scheme increased by 37%. I will give way.
Thank you for giving way. The government has repeatedly said that it will not consider lifting the two-child benefit cap, but as we've been hearing from honourable members, the cost of infant formula can be restrictive. Can be restrictive to parents who don't have sufficient, who are not particularly well off. So would the honourable gentleman consider again lifting the two-child benefit cap, which we know is the biggest driver of child poverty in the UK at the moment, so that fewer parents are faced with difficult choices when it comes to paying for good quality food?
Stephen Kinnock.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her question. When this government came into office on the 4th of July, we inherited the worst public finances since the Second World War. We were elected on the basis of a manifesto that stated that we would return fiscal responsibility and discipline to the management of the British economy. All of that means that we've had to take some very, very hard choices. I don't think there's a single member of the Parliamentary Labour Party that wants to have the two-child cap in place. But the reality is that the profound irresponsibility and recklessness of previous Conservative governments has left us with no choice but to take some very difficult decisions. I hope that as we do start to instill fiscal responsibility, start to bring growth back into our economy, we will be in a position to look again at the public finances. But we have to take it one step at a time because of the catastrophic situation that was left to us by preceding administrations. Just on the issue of the Healthy Start scheme, to add that pregnant women and children under 4 and over 1 each receive £4.25 every week, and children aged under 1 each receive £8.50 every week. So to conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd like to thank once again my honourable friend for raising this really important matter. I fully appreciate that there is no quick fix to reduce the prices of infant formula, which are set by manufacturers and retailers. But I've outlined the help that is available through Healthy Start for eligible families, and I want to assure my honourable friend that we are committed to addressing the concerns raised by the CMA so that the infant formula market delivers better outcomes that parents deserve. Thank you.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as are of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Order, order.